Good evening all, and welcome back to Silent Soul. Tonight, we're delving into the abyss with 6 disturbing, true trucker horror stories. These chilling accounts come from long-haul drivers, roadside witnesses, and law enforcement officials who face the unimaginable on America's shadowy backroads and endless freeways. Each tale uncovers a nightmare etched into the lonely miles where silence reigns, and every shadow could conceal eternal dread. If you're new here, subscribe to Silent Soul for weekly true horror that echoes in your mind long after the lights go out. Enable notifications so the void never catches you unaware. Now, let's descend into the trucking world's hidden terrors. The night of February 17th, 2025 was biting and frost-laced as Javier Esteban Morales piloted his 2023 Peterbilt 579 along Interstate 29 near Sioux City, Iowa, his headlights cutting through the stark, snow-dusted plains of the Midwest. The 42-year-old driver, with 17 years of experience, was a respected figure in the trucking community, known for his meticulous planning, calm under pressure, and a knack for navigating the region's icy, wind-swept highways. Blizzards that buried roads, winds that rocked trailers, and black ice that tested even the best. His rig, a reliable machine with 240,000 miles, carried 68,000 pounds of circuit boards and computer components from a factory in Omaha, Nebraska, to a tech hub in Fargo, North Dakota, a 380-mile run critical for a data center's upgrade, with a 6 m deadline that kept Javier focused. The weather report from the Plainsview truck stop in Sioux City at 7:30 p.m. warned of clear skies, temperatures at 15 degrees, and gusty winds up to 25 miles per hour, with patches of black ice possible on I-29's long, flat stretches. Javier, an Iowa native raised in Des Moines, where winters were a test of will, checked his rig thoroughly tire pressure at 115 psi. Chains stowed in the side box, defrosters maxed to combat frost, and logged his departure at 7:45 p.m., aiming for a rest area near Watertown, South Dakota by 11:30 p.m. Interstate 29, a lonely artery through frozen fields and skeletal cottonwoods, was nearly empty, the wind carving sharp patterns in the snow, the stars overhead cold and unyielding like distant sentinels. Javier's cab was a haven of warmth and order, a reflection of his disciplined life on the road. A thermos of strong coffee, spiked with cinnamon, sat in the coupe holder, its heat a shield against the biting cold. A small silver cross, a gift from his mother, hung from the rearview mirror, its surface catching the dashboard's glow. A photo of his son, Mateo, now 16, and a high school soccer star, was taped to the console, his grin a reminder of home. Javier had started driving at 25, after 4 years in the Navy, as a radio man left him skilled in signals but restless for the open road, earning his handle, Blue Signal, for his knack for clear communication and cool-headedness. His CB radio, a Cobra 29 Limited, was tuned to channel 19, but the airwaves were silent, the cold and wind keeping drivers off the road or quiet. As he passed mile marker 132, the plains stretched endlessly, the snow reflecting his headlights in a blinding sheen, and Javier kept his speed at 55 miles per hour, his eyes scanning for ice patches or stray livestock, common hazards on I-29. At 9:10 p.m., near mile marker 135, 30 miles north of Sioux City, his CB radio erupted with a sharp, staccato burst, not static, but a rhythmic clicking, like Morse code tapped out by an unsteady hand, irregular yet deliberate. Javier's Navy training kicked in, his mind parsing the pattern, but it wasn't standard code, more like a signal interrupted by panic. His dashboard GPS flickered, displaying a cryptic message in green text. Tuned to 13. Javier frowned. Channel 13 was rarely used, reserved for emergencies or marine traffic, and his CB wasn't set to scan it. He switched to channel 13, and the clicking intensified, forming a voice thin, distorted, like a child whispering through a tin can. Dot, 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 help us, hollow calling, dot, dot, dot. The words sent a chill through Javier, his hands tightening on the wheel, his cross swaying slightly. He'd heard trucker stories of strange signals interference, blamed on power lines or CB pranks, but this felt different, personal, urgent. His headlights caught a faint flicker on the road ahead. A pale, greenish glow pulsing in the snow, not reflecting but emanating, like a lantern buried under the ice, its light casting eerie shapes across the frozen field. At 9:15 p.m., near mile marker 137, the glow sharpened into a shape of flickering outline of a radio tower, its structure skeletal and rusted, standing in a field where no tower existed. Javier knew the area from countless runs. The nearest tower was 20 miles south, near Beersford, a modern structure with red FA lights. This one was different, its silhouette jagged, its crossbars broken, glowing green as if lit from within. The CB voice grew clearer, now multiple voices overlapping, young and desperate, a chorus of children. Dot, 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 trapped here. Find the hollow, dot, dot. His cell phone, full bars in Sioux City, showed no signal, and the cab's temperature dropped to 10 degrees, frost forming on the inside of the windows, despite the heater's blast, at 72 degrees. The trailer emitted a faint hum, like a tuning fork vibrating through the steel, and Javier's mirrors showed fleeting shapes, small, childlike figures darting through the snow, their outlines blurred, their hands reaching toward the trailer, fingers trailing like smoke. Not real, Javier muttered, his voice steady but his pulse racing, his Navy training urging him to analyze, not panic, to treat the unknown as a signal to decode. At 9:20 p.m., the radio tower vision pulsed brighter, its green glow casting eerie shadows across the road, twisting the snow into shapes like huddled figures. The CB voices pleaded, dot, 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 open the door, dot, 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 let us out, dot, dot. The words were frantic, layered with a high-pitched whine, and Javier's trailer shook, as if something inside the cargo was rattling, though the electronics were packed in foam, secured tightly in Omaha with 8,000-pound rated straps. He radioed, "This is Blue Signal, I-29, mile 137. Anyone picking up weird chatter on 13? Over." No response came, only the clicking now faster, like a distress signal from a sinking ship. The GPS locked onto Hollow Field 3 miles, a place Javier had never heard of, despite knowing every exit on I-29. His headlights revealed a snow-covered dirt road marked by a faded, splintered sign. Hollowfield, 2 miles. The green glow moved, leading toward the road, and the childlike shapes grew bolder, clustering around the trailer's sides, their hands leaving faint smudges on the metal, their faces indistinct, but their eyes dark, hollow, pleading. At 9:25 p.m., Javier spotted another truck's taillights ahead, a beacon in the frozen night. Blue signal to any driver. I-29, mile 139, I need backup. He radioed, his voice steady but urgent. A response broke through the clicking. Copy, Blue signal, this is Frostbite, mile 141. Stay with me to Watertown, don't stop. Frostbite, driven by 45-year-old Carla Nguyen, a veteran driver known for her sharp instincts, slowed her Freightliner to let Javier catch up. The green glow faded, the CB clicking stopped, and the childlike shapes vanished as they neared mile marker 140, the plains returning to their silent, snowy expanse. The GPS reset to Fargo, and the trailer's hum ceased, but the cab felt heavy, the air thick with a lingering chill. At 11 p.m., they pulled into the Watertown rest area, a brightly lit lot with 25 rigs parked, a 24-hour diner glowing with warmth, and security cameras sweeping the asphalt. Javier parked beside Carla's rig, his hands trembling as he cut the engine. the adrenaline crash leaving him lightheaded. Javier checked his trailer. The electronics were intact, but the smudges on the sides formed words, "Save you, Seth," etched in frost as if drawn by tiny, desperate fingers. The cab smelled of ozone, like a struck radio tower, and the fuel gauge was nearly empty, despite a full tank in Sioux City. He met Carla at the lot, a lean woman with a gray scarf and a no-nonsense stare, her eyes narrowing as Javier recounted the green glow, the childlike voices, and the trailer's smudges. "That's Hollow Field," she said, her voice low. "My dad hauled grain here in the 80s, said drivers heard kids crying on 13. Old orphanage burned down there in the 40s, killed some children. Folks say their voices call out, looking for help." Javier called the South Dakota Highway Patrol at 11:10 p.m., his voice steady, but his hands clutching his thermos. "This is Javier Morales, I-29, Watertown Rest Area. Heard voices on Channel 13, saw shapes, my trailer's marked." Trooper Alan Reese arrived at 11:35 p.m., a 13-year veteran with a weathered face and a reputation for tackling I-29's strange cases. Javier described the clicking signal, the glowing tower, and the childlike shapes, his words precise despite the lingering fear. Reese's team searched mile marker 137 at 12A, finding no tower or dirt road, but historical records tied the area to a 1947 orphanage fire at Hollow Field, where 8 children died, their bodies unrecovered due to the blaze's intensity. Locals avoided the site, claiming voices carried on the windless nights. Javier's dashcam captured the glowing tower and the childlike shapes, their movements jerky, their eyes dark voids, and the CB audio recorded the pleas. "Help us. Let us out," in voices matching no known frequency. The smudges on the trailer, analyzed later, contained traces of ash and bone dust, despite no fire nearby, and the scratches defied explanation, their edges too precise for human hands. Detective Sarah Klein, a 14-year veteran with a knack for historical investigations, led the case, dubbed the Hollow Signal. A meticulous investigator with a background in radio engineering, Klein met Javier at the Watertown station at 12:30 a.m., reviewing the dashcam frame by frame. The glowing tower matched descriptions from 1940s photos of a temporary radio mast near the orphanage, dismantled after the fire. The CB voices, analyzed by audio techs, contained fragments of a children's hymn sung in the Midwest, cut off mid-verse, as if interrupted by tragedy. Klein's team found electromagnetic spikes near mile marker 137, possibly tied to underground coal seams, but no physical evidence, no tower remnants, no ash piles. Local Sioux elders, consulted by Klein, spoke of spirits trapped in the hollow, seeking release through signals, their voices caught in the ether. The case spread through trucking forums, Javier's footage shared widely, sparking debates about ghosts versus radio interference from old equipment. Drivers reported similar signals on Channel 13, always in winter, always near Hollow Field. The investigation was classified as unexplained in May 2025, with no arrests or resolutions. The South Dakota Department of Transportation installed a warning sign. I-29, mile 137. Drive with care, radio interference possible. A memorial was erected near the site, funded by truckers. For the children of Hollow Field, 1947, rest in peace. Javier switched to southern routes, unable to face I-29 at night, the childlike voices haunting his dreams. He shared his story at driver meetups, his voice steady, but his hands clutching Mateo's photo, warning others of the signal that called from nowhere. The Watertown Rest Area became a hub for Hollow Field tailies, with 5 more reports by August 2025, always on cold nights, always with the same plea. Javier kept his silver cross close, a reminder to stay vigilant, and added a new habit-avoiding Channel 13, even in clear weather. The plains held their secrets, and the hollow signal remained, a cry from the lost echoing through the snow. The night of August 5th, 2024, was sultry and moonless as Tara Elise Morgan piloted her 2021 Freightliner Cascadia along State Route 17 near Savannah, Georgia, her headlights piercing the humid, cricket-loud lowlands of the coastal empire. The 39-year-old driver, with 15 years of experience, was a cornerstone of the Southeast trucking community, known for her sharp instincts, steady hand, and a knack for navigating the region's narrow, flood-prone road swamps that swallowed shoulders, bridges that swayed in storms, and curves slick with rain. Her rig, a dependable machine with 280,000 miles, carried 70,000 pounds of purified water in plastic bottles from a bottling plant in Jacksonville, Florida, to a distribution center in Charleston, South Carolina. A 200-mile run critical for stocking shelters ahead of hurricane season. The cargo was essential, with a 5 deadline, and Tara's reputation for reliability made her the go-to driver for urgent loads. The weather report from the Marshview Diner in Savannah at 8:30 p.m. warned of high humidity, temperatures at 85 degrees, and a chance of sudden downpours, with heat lightning flashing on the horizon, illuminating the oaks in brief, electric bursts. Tara, a Georgia native raised in Valdosta, where summer storms were as common as fireflies, checked her rig thoroughly tire pressure at 110 psi, wipers tested, cooling system primed to combat the heat, and logged her departure at 8:45 p.m., aiming for a rest area near Walterboro by 11:30 p.m. Route 17, a twisting ribbon through marshes and ancient oaks draped in Spanish moss, was quiet, the air thick with the scent of damp moss, the road's edges blurred by the flickering dance of fireflies. Tara's cab was a haven of comfort, a rolling testament to her life on the road. A thermos of sweet tea, brewed with lemon, sat in the Q folder, its condensation dripping onto the console, a familiar companion in the humid night. A small peach pit, carved into a heart by her father, a retired farmer, rested on the dashboard, its smooth surface catching the glow of the gauges. A photo of her niece, Lily, now 10 and a budding artist, was taped to the console, her crayon-drawn tractor trailer a source of pride. Tara had started driving at 24, after a stint as a mechanic left her craving the freedom of the highway, earning her handle, Marsh Hawk, for her sharp eyes and love of Georgia's wetlands. Her CB radio, a Uniden Bearcat 980, was tuned to channel 19, but the airwaves were quiet, the humidity stifling the usual trucker chatter. As she passed mile marker 43, the oaks loomed closer, their branches forming a tunnel over the road, and Tara kept her speed at 50 miles per hour, her eyes scanning for alligators or fallen limbs, common hazards on 17. At 10 p.m., near mile marker 45, 20 miles north of Savannah, her windshield cracked a sharp spiderweb fracture, spreading from the center, though no rock, branch, or debris had struck it. The sound was loud, a snap like a breaking bone, and Tara flinched, her pulse quickening. Her CB radio hissed with a sudden pop, like glass breaking, followed by a low, keening sound, not unlike a violin played out of tune, its pitch rising and falling in a haunting cadence. Her dashboard GPS flickered, displaying Glass Hollow 3 miles, a name absent from her maps or the detailed route notes she kept in a spiral-bound journal. Tara's hands tightened on the wheel, her mind alert. She'd heard tales of Georgia's haunted lowlands, stories of lost travelers and vengeful spirits, but dismissed them as local superstition spun in roadside bars. The crack grew, tendrils snaking across the windshield, obscuring the left side, and a faint shimmer appeared in the road ahead, a pool of reflective shards like broken mirrors, glinting under her headlights, despite no debris on the asphalt. She radioed, "This is Marsh Hawk, Route 17, mile 45. Anyone seeing weird lights or hearing glass break?" Over. No response came, only the keening, now louder, vibrating through the cab's steel frame as if the sound was inside her skull. At 10:05 p.m., near mile marker 47, the shimmer solidified into a figure, a woman in a white dress, her face obscured by long matted hair, standing dead center in the road, her hands clutching shards of glass that dripped with a dark, viscous liquid, glinting red in the headlights. Tara swerved, her tires skimming the marshy shoulder, the rig's suspension groaning as she narrowly avoided the figure, which vanished as the freightliner passed through, leaving no trace. The CB keened louder, forming words. ... we broke it. Find the hollow ... The voice was female, anguished, layered with a crackling edge, like shattering crystal. And Tara's skin crawled, her breath catching in the humid air. The cab grew hotter, the AC struggling to push out cool air, and the smell of burnt sugar filled the space, sharp and cloying, like molasses left on a stove. Tara's mirrors showed fleeting glimpses of the woman, now pacing the trailer, her dress trailing like smoke, her hands leaving smears on the metal that glistened like blood under the firefly light. The trailer rattled, as if the water bottles were shifting, though they were strapped securely in Jacksonville, with 10,000-pound rated chains. At 10:10 p.m., the GPS locked onto Glass Hollow, directing Tara to a narrow, unpaved road branching off Route 17, marked by a moss-covered wooden sign, Glass Hollow, 2 miles. The windshield crack spread further, obscuring half her view, the glass creaking as if under pressure, and the keening voice pleaded, ... fix it, ... take it back, ... Tara's heart pounded. She'd hauled through floods, hurricanes, and midnight thunderstorms, but this felt alive, vengeful, a force tied to the land itself. She kept her rig on Route 17, ignoring the GPS, her hands steady but slick with sweat. The trailer shook harder, the rattling now a clatter, like glass bottles smashing inside, though the cargo was plastic, not glass. Her dashboard gauges flickered, the temperature spiking to 90 degrees despite the night's 85, and the mirrors showed the woman closer, her hands clawing at the trailer's rear door, her face still hidden, but her movements frantic, desperate. Tara floored the freightliner, pushing 55 miles per hour, risky on the narrow, curving road, but the figure kept pace, its smears spreading across the trailer's sides. At 10:15 p.m., Tara spotted another truck's headlights approaching from the north, a lifeline in the humid night. Marsh hawked to any driver. Route 17, mile 49, I need help. She radioed, her voice steady but urgent. A response crackled through. Copy, Marshhawk. This is Lowland Star, mile 51. Follow me to Walterboro. Don't stop. Lowland Star, driven by 46-year-old Malik Jones, a veteran driver known for his reliability, slowed his Kenworth to let Tara catch up. The shimmer faded, the CB keening quieted to a faint hum, and the woman vanished as they neared mile marker 50, the oaks opening to reveal the lights of Walterboro. The GPS reset to Charleston, and the trailer's clatter stopped, but the cab felt heavy, the air thick with the lingering scent of burnt sugar. At 11:20 p.m., they pulled into the Walterboro rest area, a neon-lit lot with 35 rigs parked, a 24-hour diner buzzing with drivers, and security cameras sweeping the asphalt. Tara parked beside Malik's rig, her hands trembling as she cut the engine, the adrenaline crash leaving her lightheaded. Tara checked her trailer. The water bottles were intact, but the straps were frayed, as if clawed by sharp edges, and the trailer's side bore smears in the shape of handprints, stained with a sticky, reddish residue that smelled faintly of iron. The windshield's crack remained, a spiderweb pattern with no impact point, defying explanation. The cab smelled of burnt sugar, sharp and unsettling, and the fuel gauge showed a quarter tank, impossible after a full fill in Savannah. Malik, a tall man with a shaved head and a calm demeanor, met her at the lot, his eyes narrowing as Tara recounted the cracked windshield, the woman, and the CB voice. "Glass Hollow's bad juju," he said, sipping coffee from the thermos. "My aunt lived near here. Said folks saw a woman in white, tied to some old glassblower's accident. Don't know the details, but drivers avoid that stretch." Tara called the South Carolina Highway Patrol at 11:30 p.m., her voice steady, but her hands clutching her thermos. "This is Tara Morgan, Route 17, Walterboro Rest Area. Saw a woman, heard a voice, my windshield's cracked, trailers marked." Trooper Lena Hayes arrived at 11:55 p.m., a 12-year veteran with a sharp mind and a reputation for tackling Route 17's coastal mysteries. Tara described the cracked windshield, the woman in white, and the keening voice, her words precise despite the lingering fear. Hayes's team searched Glass Hollow, a swampy clearing off Route 17, at 12:20 a.m., finding no woman, no glass shards, or signs of tampering, but the ground was littered with tiny melted glass beads, like remnants of a forgotten craft. Tara's dashcam captured the woman standing in the road, her hands dripping with dark liquid, and the keening voice. "We broke it. Fix it, clear and chilling." The windshield crack, inspected by a mechanic, showed no impact marks, suggesting internal stress, yet no heat or pressure was detected. Hayes's expression darkened. "Glass Hollow's got a story," she said. 15 drivers reported similar sightings since 1955, tied to a 1928 glassblower's accident. A woman named Eliza Crane, burned in a furnace explosion, swore she'd haunt anyone carrying goods through her land. Detective Marcus Reed, a 13-year veteran with a knack for historical cases, led the investigation, dubbed the Shattered Glass. A meticulous investigator with a background in Southern folklore, Reed met Tara at the Walterboro station at 12:45 a.m., reviewing the dashcam frame by frame. The woman's form matched descriptions from 1920s records of Eliza Crane, a glassblower whose workshop in Glass Hollow was destroyed in a furnace mishap, killing her and leaving molten glass scattered across the swamp. The CB voice, analyzed by audio techs, contained fragments of a 1920s work song sung by artisans, cut off mid-verse, as if interrupted by tragedy. Reed's files revealed 15 sightings since 1955, all near Glass Hollow, all involving drivers hauling manufactured goods, reporting cracked glass, voices, and trailer damage. The reddish smears on Tara's trailer contained traces of iron oxide and silica, consistent with glass-making materials, despite no factories nearby. The case spread through trucking forums, Tara's footage shared widely, sparking debates about ghosts versus stress-induced hallucinations from long hauls. Drivers reported similar sightings, always in summer, always near mile marker 47. Reed's team found electromagnetic anomalies at Glass Hollow, possibly tied to buried iron deposits, but no physical evidence, no glass shards, no blood. Local Goa elders, consulted by Reed, spoke of a glass spirit bound to the swamp, seeking to reclaim her broken work. The investigation was classified as unexplained in November 2024, with no arrests or resolutions. The South Carolina Department of Transportation installed a warning sign, Glass Hollow, Route 17, drive with care, night travel discouraged. A memorial was erected near the clearing, funded by truckers, for Eliza Crane, 1928, rest in peace. Tara switched to inland routes, unable to face Route 17 at night, the woman's hidden face haunting her dreams. She shared her story at driver meetups, her voice steady, but her hands clutching Lily's peach pit, warning others of the hollow where glass wept blood. The Walterboro Rest Area became a hub for Glass Hollow tailies, with 6 more sightings by August 2025, always in humid nights, always with the same plea. Tara kept her niece's drawing close, a reminder to stay vigilant, and added a new habit, checking her windshield before every run, a shield against the lowland's wrath. The marshes held their secrets, and the shattered glass remained, a cry from a broken past. The evening of April 12, 2025, was raw and rain-soaked as Elias James Holt piloted his 2022 International LT625 along State Route 34 near Lincoln, Nebraska, his headlights cutting through the relentless downpour that battered the Great Plains. The 43-year-old driver, with 18 years of experience, was a pillar in the trucking community, known for his steady nerve, meticulous logs, and a knack for navigating the region's storm-battered backroads roads that flooded without warning, winds that pushed rigs off course, and mud that clung like glue. His rig, a battle-hardened machine with 310,000 miles, carried 72,000 pounds of tractor parts and cedars from a factory in Grand Island to a cooperative in Beatrice, a 120-mile run vital for spring planting, with a 5 a.m. deadline that kept Elias focused. The weather report from the Cornhusker Diner in Lincoln at 6:30 p.m. warned of heavy rain, 30 miles per hour wind gusts, and temperatures at 48 degrees, with flash flood risks on Route 34's low-lying stretches. Elias, a Nebraska native raised on a corn farm near Kearney, where storms shaped his childhood, checked his rig meticulously, tire pressure at 112 psi, wipers on high, drainage channels clear to prevent hydroplaning, and logged his departure at 6:45 p.m., aiming for a rest area near Beatrice by 9:30 p.m. Route 34, a narrow thread through sodden fields and swollen creeks, was nearly empty, the rain hammering the asphalt, the fields shimmering with standing water under a bruised, gray sky. Elias's cab was a sanctuary of warmth and order, a reflection of his disciplined life on the road. A thermos of black coffee, brewed with a hint of chicory, sat in the Q folder, its heat a shield against the damp chill. A small cornhusk doll, crafted by his sister, a farmer's wife in Hastings, rested on the dashboard, its woven strands catching the glow of the gauges. A photo of his parents, retired farmers who taught him to drive a tractor at 12, was taped to the console, their weathered smiles a link to home. Elias had started driving at 25, after a stint as a crop duster left him craving the steadiness of the highway, earning his handle, Plains Runner, for his speed and reliability across the flatlands. His CB radio, a Cobra 29LX, was tuned to channel 19, but the airwaves were quiet, the storm silencing the usual trucker banter. As he passed mile marker 20, the field stretched endlessly, their muddy expanse reflecting his headlights in fractured glints, and Elias kept his speed at 50 miles per hour, his eyes scanning for flooded patches or washed-out shoulders, common hazards on 34. At 8:10 p.m., near mile marker 22, 15 miles east of Lincoln, his headlights caught a streak of red across the road, not blood, but paint-like, glowing faintly as if mixed with luminescent dye, forming a jagged line that stretched into the rain-soaked distance. It wasn't roadwork paint or a spill. It shimmered, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the rain's cadence, untouched by the downpour. His CB radio crackled with a low, guttural hum, like an engine idling underground, deep and resonant. His dashboard GPS flickered, displaying Crimson Mile 2 miles, a name absent from his maps or the detailed route notes he kept in a leather-bound journal. Elias's pulse quickened, his hands steady, but his mind sharp. He'd heard rumors of Nebraska's haunted farm roads, tales of cursed fields and ghostly farmers, but dismissed them as stories spun by drivers stuck in diners. The red streak pulsed faster, leading toward a side road marked by a rusted, bullet-pocked sign. Crimson Mile, 1 mile. The CB hum grew louder, forming a voice raspy, male, urgent. ... mark the path. Don't turn back ... Elias radioed, "This is Plains Runner, Route 34, mile 22. Anyone seeing red marks on the road?" Over. No response came, only the hum, now pulsing in sync with the streak's glow. vibrating through the cab's steel frame. At 8:15 p.m., near mile marker 24, the streak widened, forming symbols, arrows pointing right, spirals twisting inward, and crude faces with hollow eyes etched in glowing red across the asphalt, their edges sharp despite the rain. The CB voice rasped, ... follow the mile ... pay the debt ... The words were heavy, layered with a growl, like a man speaking through clenched teeth. The cab grew colder, the heater struggling to push out warmth, and a metallic tongue, like rusted iron, filled the air, sharp enough to sting Elias's throat. His mirror showed a figure trailing the rig, a man in a tattered coat, his face shadowed under a wide-brimmed hat, holding a dripping paint can that glowed red, its contents spilling onto the road. The trailer shuddered, as if the equipment was shifting, though it was bolted down in Grand Island with 12,000-pound rated clamps. Elias kept his speed at 45 miles per hour, the road slick and treacherous, but the figure kept pace, painting new symbols that appeared ahead of the rig, as if guiding it toward the side road. His cell phone, full bars in Lincoln, showed no signal, and the dashboard gauges flickered, the fuel gauge dropping to half despite a full tank. At 8:20 p.m., the GPS locked onto Crimson Mile, urging a turn onto the side road, its screen glowing an unnatural red, ignoring Elias's attempts to reset it. The trailer's shudder grew violent, the hum now a growl, vibrating through the cab's frame, and the painted symbols pulsed brighter, the faces seeming to watch him, their eyes hollow but alive. The CB voice growled louder, ... bring it to us, the debt's due, ... Elias's heart pounded. He'd hauled through tornadoes and ice storms, but this felt alive, vengeful, tied to the land itself. He kept his rig on Route 34, refusing the turn, his hands slick with sweat but steady. The figure in the mirrors grew closer, now splashing paint onto the trailer's sides, its movements frantic, the red glow illuminating a skeletal hand clutching the can. At 8:25 p.m., Elias spotted another truck's taillights through the rain, a lifeline in the storm. Plains runner to any driver, Route 34, mile 26, I need backup, he radioed, his voice steady but urgent. A response crackled through. Copy, Plains runner, this is Mud Wolf. Mile 28. Stick with me to Beatrice. Don't stop. Mud Wolf, driven by 50-year-old Clara Evans, a veteran driver known for her grit, slowed her Volvo to let Elias catch up. The red streak faded, the CB quieted to a faint buzz, and the figure vanished as they neared mile marker 27, the fields returning to their muddy, rain-soaked expanse. The GPS reset to Beatrice, and the trailer's shudder stopped, but the cab felt heavy, the air thick with the lingering scent of iron. At 9:15 p.m., they pulled into the Beatrice rest area, a sodden lot with 20 rigs parked, a 24-hour diner glowing with warmth, and security cameras sweeping the asphalt. Elias parked beside Clara's rig, his hands trembling as he cut the engine, the adrenaline crash leaving him lightheaded. He checked his trailer. The equipment was secure, but the sides bore red smears forming the word debt in jagged, dripping letters, the paint sticky and warm, like fresh blood. The cab smelled of iron, sharp and metallic, and the fuel gauge showed a quarter tank, impossible after a full fill in Lincoln. Clara, a wiry woman with a gray braid and a no-nonsense stare, met him at the lot, her eyes narrowing as Elias recounted the red streak, the figure, and the CB voice. That's the Crimson Mile, she said, her voice low. My grandpa farmed near here, said drivers saw red paint in storms, tied to some farmer who cursed the land. Never got the full story, but folks avoid that turn. Elias called the Nebraska State Patrol at 9:30 p.m., his voice steady, but his hands clutching his thermos. This is Elias Holt, Route 34, Beatrice Rest Area. Saw red paint, a figure, my trailer's marked. Trooper Nathan Cole arrived at 9:55 p.m., a 14-year veteran with a weathered face and a reputation for tackling Route 34's strange cases. Elias described the glowing streak, the painted symbols, and the figure with the paint can, his words precise despite the lingering fear. Cole's team searched mile marker 24 at 10:20 p.m., finding no paint or signs of tampering, but the ground near the Crimson Mile sign was stained with faint red traces, testing positive for iron oxide and organic compounds, like blood mixed with pigment. Elias's dashcam captured the symbols forming on the road and the figure painting the trailer, its face shadowed, but its movements deliberate. The CB audio, analyzed later, contained the raspy voice, "Follow the mile. Pay the debt," in a tone unmatched to any known frequency, layered with a faint chant, like a farmer's work song. Detective Anna Kessler, a 15-year veteran with a knack for rural investigations, led the case, dubbed the Crimson Mile. A meticulous investigator with a background in Nebraska history, Kessler met Elias at the Beatrice station at 10:30 p.m., reviewing the dashcam frame by frame. The figure matched descriptions from 1930s records of Amos Teller, a farmer who lost his land to debt collectors in 1932, painting curses in red across his fields before disappearing, rumored to have sworn vengeance on anyone profiting from the land. The CB voice contained fragments of a 1930s harvest chant, cut off mid-verse, as if interrupted by betrayal. Kessler's files revealed 14 sightings since 1950, all near mile marker 24, all involving drivers hauling agricultural goods, reporting red paint, voices, and trailer damage. The smears on Elias's trailer, analyzed by forensics, contained traces of red ochre and bone ash, materials used in early 20th century paints, despite no local sources. The case spread through trucking forums, Elias's footage shared widely, sparking debates about ghosts versus chemical spills from old farm equipment. Drivers reported similar red streaks, always in spring storms, always near the Crimson Mile. Kessler's team found electromagnetic anomalies near the side road, possibly tied to buried iron deposits, but no physical evidence, no paint cans, no brushes. Local Pawnee elders, consulted by Kessler, spoke of a blood painter, a spirit bound to stolen land, marking paths to reclaim what was lost. Elias switched to urban routes, unable to face Route 34 in storms, the painted faces haunting his dreams. He shared his story at driver meetups, his voice steady, but his hands clutching his cornhusk doll, warning others of the mile that demanded payment. The Beatrice Rest area became a hub for Crimson Mile tailies, with 5 more sightings by August 2025, always in rain, always with the same demand. Elias kept his parents' photo close, a reminder to stay vigilant, and added a new habit, carrying a vial of holy water, a shield against the plains' wrath. The fields held their secrets, and the Crimson Mile remained, a path marked by a debt unpaid. The night of January 8, 2025, was frigid and starlit as Sarah Renee Caldwell piloted her 2020 Kenworth W990 along U.S. Route 287 near Laramie, Wyoming, her headlights piercing the snow-covered desolation of the high plains. The 41-year-old driver, with 16 years of experience, was a respected name in the Rocky Mountain trucking community, known for her grit, precision, and a knack for navigating the region's treacherous highways' ice-slicked curves, sudden blizzards, and winds that could flip a trailer. Her rig, a rugged machine with 290,000 miles, carried 65,000 pounds of frozen vegetables, carrots, peas, and corn from a processing plant in Fort Collins, Colorado, to a distribution center in Casper, Wyoming, a 230-mile run critical for restocking grocery stores during winter shortages, with a 5 a.m. deadline that kept Sarah sharp. The weather report from the Snowy Range Diner in Laramie at 7 p.m. warned of clear skies, temperatures at 10 degrees, and light winds at 15 miles per hour, with ice patches likely on exposed stretches of 287. Sarah, A Wyoming native raised in Cheyenne, where blizzards shaped her childhood, checked her rig meticulously, tire pressure at 114 psi, tire chains stowed in the side box, heater cranked to combat the cold, and logged her departure at 7:15 p.m., aiming for a rest area near Rollins by 10:30 p.m. Route 287, a lonely ribbon through vast prairies and rocky outcrops, was silent, the snow glowing faintly under the stars, the air sharp with the scent of pine and frost, the horizon unbroken, except for distant, jagged peaks. Sarah's cab was a fortress of warmth, a reflection of her disciplined life on the road. A thermos of hot cocoa, laced with peppermint, sat in the coupe holder, its steam a shield against the biting cold. A small elk antler, carved with her initials by her brother, a rancher in Sheridan, rested on the dashboard, its smooth surface catching the glow of the gauges. A photo of her daughter, Emma, now 15 and a skier with dreams of the Olympics, was taped to the console, her grin a beacon of home. Sarah had started driving at 25, after a stint as a park ranger left her craving the open road, earning her handle, Frost Raven, for her dark hair and ability to glide through winter storms. Her CB radio, a Cobra 29 Limited, was tuned to channel 19, but the airwaves were quiet, the cold keeping drivers off the road or silent. As she passed mile marker 403, the prairies stretched endlessly, their snowy expanse reflecting her headlights in a ghostly sheen, and Sarah kept her speed at 50 miles per hour, her eyes scanning for black ice or stray antelope, common hazards on 287. At 8:40 p.m., near mile marker 405, 25 miles north of Laramie, a sound pierced the silence, a shrill, reedy whistle, like a flute carved from bone, cutting through the cab with a mournful human quality, rising and falling like a dirge played in a forgotten graveyard. It wasn't mechanical, not the wind or a distant train. It carried an urgency, as if calling for help. Her CB radio buzzed with a faint, high-pitched whine, then went dead, its display dark despite a recent battery check. Her dashboard GPS flickered, showing Whistle Gap 4 miles, a name not on her route or the detailed maps she kept in a binder. Sarah's pulse quickened, her hand steady, but her mind alert. She'd heard tales of Wyoming's haunted plains, stories of lost settlers or cursed rituals, but dismissed them as campfire yarns for rookies. The whistle grew louder, now coming from the road ahead, and her headlights caught a glint in the snow. A small, white object, like a carved bone, tumbling across the asphalt, stopping abruptly as if placed by an unseen hand centered in her lane. At 8:45 p.m., near mile marker 407, the whistle split into a chorus, multiple notes weaving together, urgent and pleading, as if calling her name, Sarah, Sarah, in a cadence that sent chills down her spine. The cab grew colder, frost creeping up the window's insides despite the heater's roar at 70 degrees, and a faint smell of ash and marrow filled the air, sharp and unsettling, like a fire pit long extinguished. The CB whine returned, forming words. ... blow the whistle. ... find the gap. The voice was soft, almost childlike, but layered with a hollow echo, like wind through a cave, resonating in her chest. Sarah's mirrors showed fleeting shapes, tall, gaunt figures in ragged cloaks, their faces hidden, clutching bone-like objects that glinted in the starlight, moving silently through the snow. The trailer vibrated, as if the frozen cargo was shifting, though it was packed tightly in Fort Collins with 10,000-pound rated straps. She radioed, "This is Frost Raven, Route 287, mile 407. Anyone hearing a whistle out here?" Over. No response came, only the whine, now pulsing with the whistle's rhythm, vibrating through the cab's steel frame. At 8:50 p.m., the GPS locked onto Whistle Gap, directing her to a snow-choked dirt road branching off 287, marked by a splintered wooden sign. Whistle Gap, 3 miles. The bone object appeared again, rolling across the road, stopping in her path. Its surface etched with faint, swirling patterns, like ancient runes. The whistle's chorus grew desperate. Dot, 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 call us back. Set us free, dot, dot. Sarah's heart pounded. She'd hauled through avalanches, whiteouts, and mountain passes, but this felt alive, ancient, tied to the land's bones. She kept her rig on 287, ignoring the GPS, her hands slick with sweat but steady. The trailer shook harder, the vibration now a low rumble, like bones rattling inside, and the figures in the mirrors grew bolder, circling the trailer, their cloaks trailing like smoke, their bone objects raised as if playing them. Her cell phone, full bars in Laramie, showed no signal, and the dashboard gauges flickered, the fuel gauge dropping to half despite a full tank. At 8:55 p.m., Sarah spotted another truck's taillights ahead, a beacon in the frozen night. Frost Raven to any driver, Route 287, mile 409, I need backup. She radioed, her voice steady but urgent. A response crackled through. Copy, Frost Raven. This is Snow Fang, mile 411. Follow me to Rollins, don't stop. Snow Fang, driven by 48-year-old Lena Ortiz, a veteran driver known for her calm under pressure, slowed her Volvo to let Sarah catch up. The whistle faded, the CB whine quieted to a faint buzz, and the gaunt figures vanished as they neared mile marker 410, the prairies returning to their silent, snowy expanse. The GPS reset to Casper, and the trailer's rumble stopped, but the cab felt heavy, the air thick with the lingering scent of ash. At 10:20 p.m., they pulled into the Rollins rest area, a windswept lot with 22 rigs parked, a 24-hour diner glowing with warmth, and security cameras sweeping the asphalt. Sarah parked beside Lena's rig, her hands trembling as she cut the engine, the adrenaline crash leaving her dizzy. Sarah checked her trailer. The frozen produce was secure, but the sides bore faint scratches, like claw marks, forming the word call in jagged, uneven lines as if etched by something sharp and desperate. The cab smelled of ash and marrow, sharp and unsettling, and the fuel gauge was nearly empty, despite a full tank in Laramie. Lena, a stocky woman with a gray ponytail and a weathered face, met her at the lot, her eyes narrowing as Sarah recounted the whistle, the bone object, and the figures. That's Whistle Gap, she said, her voice low. My dad hauled cattle here in the 70s, said drivers heard flutes at night, tied to some old ritual site. Never got the full story, but folks avoid that road. Sarah called the Wyoming Highway Patrol at 10:30 p.m., her voice steady, but her hands clutching her thermos. This is Sarah Caldwell, Route 287, Rollins Rest Area. Heard a whistle, saw shapes, my trailer scratched. Trooper Ethan Blake arrived at 10:55 p.m., a 12-year veteran with a grizzled face and a reputation for tackling Route 287's strange cases. Sarah described the bone whistle, the gaunt figures, and the trailer scratches, her words precise despite the lingering fear. Blake's team searched mile marker 407 at 11:20 p.m., finding no bone object or dirt road, but the snow near the Whistle Gap sign was disturbed, as if raked by thin, sharp tools. Sarah's dashcam captured the bone object tumbling across the road and the cloaked figures circling the trailer, their movements silent but deliberate, the whistle's sound clear and haunting. The CB audio, analyzed later, contained the childlike voice, "Blow the whistle. Set us free," layered with a faint chant, like a ritual hymn from another era. The scratches on the trailer, inspected by forensics, contained traces of bone dust and charcoal, materials tied to ancient practices, despite no local sources. Detective Clara Nguyen, a 13-year veteran with a knack for archaeological cases, led the investigation, dubbed the Bone Whistle. A meticulous investigator with a background in Wyoming history, Nguyen met Sarah at the Rawlins station at 11:30 p.m., reviewing the dashcam frame by frame. The figures matched descriptions from 1880s records of a failed ritual near Whistle Gap, where settlers attempted a ceremonial burial using carved bone whistles, angering local spirits, according to Shoshone oral histories. The CB voice contained fragments of a 19th century lament, sung during frontier funerals, cut off mid-verse, as if interrupted by tragedy. Nguyen's files revealed 13 sightings since 1960, all near mile marker 407, all involving drivers hauling perishables, reporting whistles, shapes, and trailer damage. The scratches on Sarah's trailer, analyzed further, showed microscopic bone fragments, possibly human, defying explanation. The case spread through trucking forums, Sarah's footage shared widely, sparking debates about ghosts versus auditory hallucinations from road noise. Drivers reported similar whistles, always in winter, always near Whistle Gap. Nguyen's team found electromagnetic anomalies near the site, possibly tied to underground quartz deposits, but no physical evidence, no bones, no ash piles. Shoshone elders, consulted by Nguyen, spoke of bone singers, spirits bound to the plains, seeking release through music. The investigation was classified as unexplained in April 2025, with no arrests or resolutions. The Wyoming Department of Transportation installed a warning sign. Route 287, mile 407. Drive with care, ice hazard. A memorial was erected near the site, funded by truckers. For the lost of Whistle Gap, 1880s, rest in peace. Sarah switched to southern routes, unable to face Route 287 in winter, the whistle's call haunting her dreams. She shared her story at driver meetups, her voice steady, but her hands clutching Emma's photo, warning others of the gap where bones sang. The Rawlins Rest area became a hub for Whistle Gap tailies, with 6 more sightings by August 2025, always on clear nights, always with the same plea. Sarah kept her antler carving close, a reminder to stay vigilant, and added a new habit, keeping her CB off at night, a shield against the plains lament. The snow held its secrets, and the bone whistle remained, a call from the lost, echoing through the frost. The night of July 15, 2025, was sweltering and cicada-loud as Kendra Marie Ellis piloted her 2022 Western Star 570OXE along U.S. Route 61 near Clarksdale, Mississippi, her headlights cutting through the heavy, humid air of the Mississippi Delta. The 38-year-old driver, with 14 years of experience, was a mainstay in the southern trucking community, known for her fearless navigation, quick wit, and a knack for mastering the region's flood-prone, heat-baked roads levees that crumbled, bridges slick with mud, and asphalt that shimmered with mirages. Her rig, a reliable machine with 270,000 miles, carried 74,000 pounds of raw cotton bales from a gin in Memphis, Tennessee, to a textile mill in Natchez, Mississippi, a 210-mile run critical for summer production, with a 5 a.m. deadline that kept Kendra focused. The weather report from the Delta Moon Diner in Clarksdale at 8 p.m. warned of clear skies, temperatures at 92 degrees, and oppressive humidity, with heat mirages shimmering on the asphalt and a chance of late-night thunderstorms. Kendra, a Mississippi native raised in Greenville, where the Delta's rhythms of flood and harvest shaped her life, checked her rig meticulously tire pressure at 111 psi, AC blasting to combat the heat, radiator primed to prevent overheating, and logged her departure at 8:15 p.m., aiming for a rest area near Vicksburg by 11:30 p.m. Route 61, the storied Blues Highway winding through cotton fields, muddy levees, and cypress groves, was nearly empty. The cicadas drone, blending with the hum of her engine, the air thick with the scent of dust and river silt under a starless sky. Kendra's cab was a refuge of cool air and order, a testament to her disciplined life on the road. A thermos of iced tea, brewed with mint from her mother's garden, sat in the cue folder, its condensation dripping onto the console. A familiar comfort in the stifling heat. A small juke joint charm, a miniature guitar, carved from cypress, rested on the dashboard. A gift from her brother, a blues musician in Clarksdale, its polished surface catching the glow of the gauges. A photo of her nephew, Jamal, now 12 and a budding guitarist, was taped to the console, his smile a link to home. Kendra had started driving at 24. After a stint as a cotton scale operator, left her craving the highway's freedom, earning her handle, Delta Song, for her love of the region's music and her smooth, melodic voice over the CB. Her CB radio, a Uniden Bearcat 980, was tuned to channel 19, but the airwaves were quiet, the humidity silencing the usual trucker banter. As she passed mile marker 168, the cotton fields stretched endlessly, their white tufts ghostly in the headlights, and Kendra kept her speed at 55 miles per hour, her eyes scanning for flooded patches or stray dogs, common hazards on 61. At 9:50 p.m., near mile marker 170, 30 miles south of Clarksdale, her headlights caught a strange sight, a crude, human-shaped effigy made of cotton and burlap, standing upright in the center of the road, its head tilted as if watching her approach. It wasn't a scarecrow. Its limbs were too lifelike, its posture too deliberate, swaying slightly as if moved by an unfelt breeze in the still, humid air. Its face, crudely stitched burlap with empty, black holes for eyes, seemed to track her rig, and its arms hung limp, clutching loose cotton threads. Her CB radio hissed with a soft, rhythmic scratching, like fingers clawing at fabric, sharp and deliberate. Her dashboard GPS flickered, displaying Effigy Bend 3 miles, a name absent from her maps or the route notes she kept in a leather journal. Kendra's pulse quickened, her hand steady, but her mind sharp. She'd heard Delta legends of vengeful spirits tied to the cotton fields, but dismissed them as old wives' tales told over sweet tea. The effigy's stitched eyes glinted, catching her headlights, and as she swerved to avoid it, the rig's tires skimming the levee's edge, it vanished, leaving only a scattering of cotton wisps on the asphalt, floating like ghosts. The CB scratching grew louder, forming a voice low, female, anguished. Dot, dot, weave us whole, to the bend, dot, dot. At 9:55 p.m., near mile marker 172, the effigy reappeared, now closer to the road's edge, its burlap arms outstretched, as if reaching for the trailer, its stitched mouth gaping as if to scream. The CB voice whispered, dot, 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 take us back. Mend the thread. The words were heavy, layered with a sorrowful edge, like a blues song sung in a forgotten juke joint. The cab grew hotter, the AC faltering despite running at full blast, and a faint smell of scorched cotton filled the air, sharp and acrid, like a field fire snuffed out. Kendra's mirrors showed more effigies 3, then 5 lining the road, their stitched faces turned toward her rig, their forms swaying in unison, as if dancing to an unheard rhythm. The trailer vibrated, as if the cotton bales were shifting, though they were tightly packed in Memphis, with 10,000-pound rated straps. She radioed, "This is Delta Song, Route 61, mile 172. Anyone seeing figures out here?" Over. No response came, only the scratching, now pulsing with the effigy's sway, vibrating through the cab's steel frame. At 10 p.m., the GPS locked onto Effigy Bend, directing her to a dirt road branching off Route 61, marked by a warped, moss-stained sign. Effigy Bend, 2 miles. The effigies moved, stepping onto the road, their movements jerky, like puppets on frayed strings, their stitched mouths opening as if to speak, their arms reaching toward the trailer. The CB voice grew desperate. Dot, 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 sew us free. Dot, 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 bring us home, dot, dot. Kendra's heart pounded. She'd hauled through tornadoes, river floods, and midnight storms, but this felt alive, bound to the Delta soil, a sorrow woven into the land. She kept her rig on Route 61, ignoring the GPS, her hands slick with sweat but steady. The trailer shook harder, the vibration now a low thud, like hands pounding inside the cargo hold, and the effigies closed in, their burlap fingers brushing the trailer's sides, leaving faint tears in the metal. Her cell phone, full bars in Clarksdale, showed no signal, and the dashboard gauges flickered, the temperature spiking to 95 degrees despite the night's 92. At 10:05 p.m., Kendra spotted another truck's taillights ahead, a beacon through the humid haze. Delta song to any driver, Route 61, mile 174, I need backup. She radioed, her voice steady but urgent. A response crackled through. Copy, Delta song, this is River Ghost, mile 176. Follow me to Vicksburg, don't stop. River Ghost, driven by 49-year-old Amos Reed, a veteran driver known for his reliability, slowed his Kenworth to let Kendra catch up. The effigies vanished, their forms dissolving into the air. The CB scratching quieted to a faint hum, and the trailer's thudding stopped as they neared mile marker 175, the cotton fields fading into the darkness. The GPS reset to Natchez, and the cab felt lighter, though the air remained thick with the scent of scorched cotton. At 11:20 p.m., they pulled into the Vicksburg rest area, a humid lot with 28 rigs parked, a 24-hour diner buzzing with drivers, and security cameras sweeping the asphalt. Kendra parked beside Amos's rig, her hands trembling as she cut the engine, the adrenaline crash leaving her dizzy. Kendra checked her trailer. The cotton bales were secure, but the sides bore faint tears like claw marks, forming the word weave in jagged, uneven lines as if scratched by desperate fingers. The cab smelled of scorched cotton, sharp and unsettling, and the fuel gauge showed a quarter tank, impossible after a full fill in Clarksdale. Amos, a broad man with a gray beard and a calm demeanor, met her at the lot, his eyes narrowing as Kendra recounted the effigies, the voice, and the trailer marks. "That's Effigy Bend," he said, sipping coffee from a thermos. "My grandma worked these fields, said folks saw cotton figures at night, tied to some old tragedy. Never got the details, but drivers steer clear of that road." Kendra called the Mississippi Highway Patrol at 11:30 p.m., her voice steady, but her hands clutching her thermos. "This is Kendra Ellis, Route 61, Vicksburg Rest Area. Saw figures, heard a voice. My trailer's torn." Trooper Clara Wade arrived at 11:55 p.m., a 12-year veteran with a sharp mind and a reputation for tackling Route 61's Delta mysteries. Kendra described the burlap effigies, the female voice, and the trailer tears, her words precise despite the lingering fear. Wade's team searched mile marker 172 at 12:20 a, finding no figures or dirt road, but the ground near the Effigy Bend sign was littered with cotton wisps and burlap scraps, like remnants of a long-abandoned craft. Kendra's dashcam captured the effigies stepping onto the road, their stitched faces glaring, and the voice, "Weave us whole, sew us free," clear and haunting. The trailer tiers, inspected by forensics, contained traces of cotton fiber and human hair, materials tied to early 20th century Delta crafts, despite no local sources. Wade's expression darkened. "Effigy Bend's got a history," she said. 17 drivers reported similar sightings since 1955, tied to a 1915 cotton field fire that killed workers, mostly women, whose bodies were never fully recovered. Detective Leon Harper, a 15-year veteran with a knack for Delta folklore, led the investigation, dubbed the Silent Effigy. A meticulous investigator with a background in Southern history, Harper met Kendra at the Vicksburg station at 12:45 a.m., reviewing the dashcam frame by frame. The effigies matched descriptions from 1910's records of a field worker, Cora Lunn, who died in the fire, rumored to have cursed the land for its exploitation, her spirit bound to cotton effigies crafted by survivors. The CB voice contained fragments of a 1910s work song, sung by Delta laborers, cut off mid-verse, as if silenced by tragedy. Harper's files revealed 17 sightings since 1955, all near mile marker 172, all involving drivers hauling cotton or textiles, reporting figures, voices, and trailer damage. The tears on Kendra's trailer showed microscopic traces of ash and bone, defying explanation. The case spread through trucking forums, Kendra's footage shared widely, sparking debates about ghosts versus heat-induced hallucinations. Drivers reported similar effigies, always in summer, always near Effigy Bend. Harper's team found electromagnetic anomalies near the site, possibly tied to buried iron from old farm tools. But no physical evidence, no burlap, no cotton piles. Local Choctaw elders, consulted by Harper, spoke of a woven spirit, bound to the Delta, seeking to mend its broken past. Kendra switched to coastal routes, unable to face Route 61 at night, the stitched faces haunting her dreams. She shared her story at driver meetups, her voice steady, but her hands clutching Jamal's guitar charm, warning others of the bend where the Delta mourned. The Vicksburg rest area became a hub for Effigy Bend tailies, with 7 more sightings by August 2025, always in humid nights, always with the same plea. Kendra kept her nephew's photo close, a reminder to stay vigilant, and added a new habit, carrying a spool of thread in her cab, a shield against the Delta's sorrow. The fields held their secrets, and the silent effigy remained, a cry to be woven whole. The night of November 22, 2024, was damp and chilly as Naomi Ruth Carter piloted her 2022 Volvo VNL 860 along U.S. Route 101 near Forks, Washington, her headlights slicing through the mist that cloaked the Olympic Peninsula's cedar forests. The 37-year-old driver, with 13 years of experience, was a mainstay in the Pacific Northwest trucking community, known for her unflinching calm, sharp reflexes, and a knack for navigating the region's treacherous rain-soaked roads, curves that hugged cliffs, bridges slick with algae, and stretches prone to landslides. Her rig, a well-kept machine with 260,000 miles, carried 78,000 pounds of freshly cut cedar logs from a mill in Port Angeles to a lumberyard in Aberdeen, a 150-mile run that demanded precision to keep the logs secure on Route 101's coastal twists. The cargo was heavy, the deadline tight 6 a.m. delivery, and Naomi's reputation for reliability kept her in demand. The weather report from the Timberline Diner in Forks at 8 p.m. warned of steady drizzle, temperatures at 42 degrees, and dense mist rolling off the Pacific, reducing visibility to 200 feet in spots. Naomi, a Washington native raised in Olympia, where rain was as familiar as breathing, checked her rig meticulously, tire pressure at 110 psi, wipers fresh, fog lights blazing to cut through the haze, and logged her departure at 8:15 p.m., aiming for a rest area near Hoquiam by 11 p.m. Route 101. A winding ribbon through dense cedars and rocky cliffs was nearly deserted, the mist shrouding the trees, the ocean's roar a faint hum beyond the bluffs, its rhythm broken only by the patter of drizzle on her windshield. Naomi's cab was a sanctuary of warmth and order, a reflection of her disciplined life on the road. A thermos of chamomile tea, brewed with honey, sat in the Q folder, its soothing scent a counterpoint to the damp chill. A small cedar carving of a salmon, a gift from her cousin, a Quileute fisherman, rested on the dashboard, its polished surface catching the glow of the gauges. A photo of her parents, retired teachers in Olympia, was taped to the console, their smiles a reminder of home. Naomi had started driving at 24, after a stint as a park ranger left her craving the freedom of the highway, and earned her handle, Cedar Queen, for her love of the Northwest's forests and her knack for hauling timber. Her CB radio, a Uniden Bearcat 980, was tuned to channel 19, but the airwaves were quiet, the mist and drizzle silencing the usual trucker banter. As she passed mile marker 108, the road curved sharply, the Pacific's salty tang mingling with the cedar's earthy aroma, and Naomi kept her speed at 50 miles per hour, her eyes scanning for fallen branches or deer, common hazards on 101. At 9:30 p.m., near mile marker 110, 25 miles south of Forks, her headlights caught a strange glow, a pulsing red beacon hovering above the road, not attached to any pole, vehicle, or structure, its light cutting through the mist like a bloodshot eye staring into the night. It wasn't a road flare, emergency signal, or taillight. It moved, drifting side to side, keeping pace with a rig at 50 miles per hour, always 100 feet ahead. Her CB radio buzzed with a low, oscillating hum, like a heartbeat echoing through static, growing louder as the beacon pulsed. Her GPS screen flickered, displaying beacon point 2 miles, a location not on her route or any map she'd studied. Naomi's pulse quickened, her hands steady, but her mind alert. She'd heard whispers of Route 101's eerie history, stories of loggers lost in storms, strange lights seen by fishermen over the ocean, but dismissed them as tales spun over late-night coffee. The beacon pulsed faster, its red glow intensifying, bathing the road in an unnatural crimson, and a faint tapping began, like raindrops on the trailer's roof, though the drizzle was too light to cause such a sound. At 9:35 p.m., near mile marker 112, the tapping grew louder, a rhythmic thudding from the trailer's roof, as if something heavy was pacing above the cedar logs, its steps deliberate, uneven. The CB hum shifted, forming a voice not human, but guttural, like gravel grinding underfoot. ... follow the light. ... to the point. ... Naomi's skin prickled, her breath visible in the cab, despite the heater's warmth at 68 degrees. She radioed, "This is Cedar Queen, Route 101, mile 112. Anyone seeing a red light out here?" Over. No response came, only the hum, now pulsing in sync with the beacon's rhythm, vibrating through the cab's steel frame. Her dashboard gauges twitched erratically, the fuel gauge dropping to half, despite a full tank in Forks, and the trailer groaned, as if the logs were shifting under an unseen weight, though Naomi had checked the straps herself, securing them with 10,000-pound braided chains. In her side mirrors, she glimpsed a shape atop the trailer, a hunched, indistinct form, its edges blurred by mist, with 2 red pinpoints glowing where eyes should be, staring directly into the cab. At 9:40 p.m., the beacon veered right, toward a narrow gravel road marked by a weathered wooden sign. Beacon Point, 1 mile. The GPS locked onto the road, displaying "Follow to Beacon Point," despite Naomi's frantic attempts to reset it, the screen glowing an unnatural red. The tapping became a pounding, like fists hammering the trailer's roof, each thud shaking the cab, and the voice on the CB growled louder, ... bring it to us. At the point, ... Naomi's heart raced. She'd hauled through storms, mudslides, and black ice, but this was different. A force that felt alive, malevolent, pulling at her rig like a tide. She kept her speed steady, refusing to turn onto the gravel road, knowing it was too narrow for a 53-foot trailer, but the rig slowed, as if dragged by an invisible tether, the engine straining despite her foot on the gas, the RPMs dropping to 1,200. Her mirrors showed the hunched shape moving, now clinging to the trailer's rear, its red eyes unblinking, its form more defined skeletal, draped in tattered cloth, like a figure from a shipwreck washed ashore. At 9:45 p.m., Naomi spotted another truck's headlights approaching from the south, a beacon through the mist. "Cedar Queen to any driver, Route 101, mile 114. I need assistance." She radioed, her voice steady but edged with urgency. A response crackled through. "Copy, Cedar Queen. This is Rain Dog, mile 116. Stick with me to Hoquiam. Don't stop. Rain Dog, driven by 49-year-old Sam Torres, a grizzled driver known for his reliability, slowed his Freightliner to let Naomi catch up. The red beacon faded, its glow winking out like a dying ember. The CB hum quieted to a faint buzz, and the pounding stopped as they cleared mile marker 115. The GPS reset to Aberdeen, and the trailer's groans ceased, but the cab felt heavy, the air thick with a lingering chill. At 10:50 p.m., they pulled into the Hoquiam rest area, a brightly lit lot with 30 rigs parked, a 24-hour diner buzzing with drivers, and security cameras sweeping the asphalt. Naomi parked beside Sam's rig, her hands trembling as she cut the engine, the adrenaline crash leaving her dizzy. Naomi checked her trailer. The cedar logs were secure, but the roof bore dents, like footprints stamped into the metal, each one deep enough to buckle the aluminum. The trailer's side had faint red streaks, like dried blood, though the logs showed no damage or stains. The cab smelled of salt and rot, like seaweed left to decay on a beach, and her fuel gauge showed a quarter tank, impossible after a full fill in Forks. Sam, a stocky man with a weathered face, met her at the lot, his eyes narrowing as Naomi recounted the beacon, the pounding, and the shape in her mirrors. "Beacon Point's a bad place," he said, sipping coffee from a thermos. "My grandpa fished these waters, said lights led boats to crash there in the 30s. Drivers see 'em too, always at night." Naomi called the Washington State Patrol at 11 p.m., her voice steady, but her hands clutching her thermos. "This is Naomi Carter, Route 101, Hoquiam Rest Area. Saw a red light, heard a voice, my trailer's damaged." Trooper Rachel Kim arrived at 11:25 p.m., a 10-year veteran with a sharp mind and a reputation for tackling Route 101's coastal mysteries. Naomi described the pulsing beacon, the hunched shape, and the CB voice, her words precise despite the lingering fear. Kim's team searched Beacon Point, a rocky outcrop overlooking the Pacific, at 11:50 p.m., finding no light source, no debris, or signs of tampering. Naomi's dashcam captured the red beacon hovering above the road and the hunched shape on the trailer, its red eyes glaring through the mist, the footage clear but inexplicable. The CB audio, analyzed later, contained the guttural voice, "Follow the light. Bring it to us," with no identifiable source, its tone matching no known human speech pattern. Kim's expression darkened. "Beacon Point's got a history," she said. 16 drivers reported lights and voices since 1965, tied to a 1930 shipwreck, the Eternal Star, a logging vessel that sank off the point, killing 12 crewmen. Locals say their spirits guide travelers to the wreck, demanding their cargo back. Detective Marcus Lee, a 14-year veteran with a knack for maritime cases, led the investigation, dubbed the Blood Red Beacon. A methodical investigator with a background in coastal geology, Lee met Naomi at the Hoquiam station at 12:15 a.m., reviewing the dashcam frame by frame. The beacon's glow showed no spectral signature of common light sources, no sodium, no lead, and the dents on the trailer matched no known tool, their edges infused with traces of saltwater corrosion, despite the trailer's inland route. Lee's files revealed 16 sightings since 1965, all near Beacon Point, all involving drivers hauling timber or maritime cargo, reporting red lights, voices, and trailer damage. Historical records tied the Eternal Star to a 1935 wreck during a gale, its cedar logs lost to the Pacific, its crewmen's bodies never found. Local Kalut elders, consulted by Lee, spoke of a sea wraith, a spirit bound to the wreck, luring travelers to return its stolen cargo logs cut from sacred groves. The case spread through trucking forums, Naomi's footage shared widely, sparking debates about ghosts versus optical illusions from coastal mist. Drivers reported similar lights, always in late fall, always near mile marker 110. Lee's team found electromagnetic spikes at Beacon Point, possibly tied to underwater mineral deposits, but no physical evidence, no light fixtures, no debris. The investigation was classified as unexplained in February 2025, with no arrests or resolutions. The Washington Department of Transportation installed a warning sign. Beacon Point, Route 101, drive with caution. Night travel discouraged. A memorial was erected near the point, funded by truckers. For the Eternal Star Crew, 1935. Rest in peace. Naomi switched to inland routes, unable to face Route 101 at night, the red eyes haunting her dreams. She shared her story at driver meetups, her voice steady, but her hands clutching her salmon carving, warning others of the light that led to nowhere. The Hoquiam Rest area became a hub for Beacon Point tailies, with 7 more sightings by August 2025, always in mist, always with the same demand. Naomi kept her parents' photo close, a reminder to stay vigilant, and added a new habit-burning sage in her cab before coastal runs, a shield against the ocean's wrath. The Pacific's mist held its secrets, and the blood-red beacon remained, a lure to the lost.